Okay, you can start.
All right. Hello, everybody. Again, sorry for the bit of a schedule swapperoo here, but I'm going to be doing some Shadowgate 64 for you. Pretty good late night chill run for those of you who might be hanging out, snoozing potentially. But let's just go ahead and get it fired right up. We'll see how it goes. Get it started in 3, 2, 1, go. So the game starts off with a lovely 1-minute unskippable cutscene. For those of you wondering why it looks like potato, it's because it's an early 64 game and they just indeed look like a potato sometimes. Luckily, there's not a whole lot of unskippable sort of nonsense. I mean, there is a lot of unskippable nonsense in the game, but most of it is, actually has gameplay involved, which is obviously a good thing. Give a little bit of a background, though, on some of the lore that's going on here. We're playing as Dale Cottonwood. And our character is the dude that's getting thrown in jail currently. Because, yeah, we got caught trying to break into Castle Shadowgate, I think, or something like that. We will be returning to this area later to do some stuff and some things. The very first thing we do is we gotta turn around here, we gotta talk to this guy. This is Agar. Agar is a magician, wizard, whatever you want to call it. He's a pretty important character. We'll be coming back later to free him. But for now, we just gotta figure out how to escape ourselves. Dungeon Keeper just brought us some food. Always lovely. You love to see it. You gotta get those carbs. After we talk to Agar, we're gonna go over here and we're gonna eat this, I guess it's chicken? I'm not really sure. It looks like chicken. For the grossest sound effects on the console in the process. We go over here and we remove this straw. We're going to say no when it asks us to open the lid. The reason for that is because if we say yes, it gives us an additional text box saying, hey, I can't open this lid. So, fun little time, say. So, this game is more or less a point-and-click sort of adventure, where we, we move around, we pick up a lot of different objects and use them to complete the game. The cool thing about it is there is no pointing and clicking, it's all in first person. Pretty fun. Those of you who may have any experience with like GoldenEye or Perfect Dark, similar controls to that. You use the C buttons, turn with the control stick. So that's Lucas. Everybody say hello to Lucas. It's pretty objectively awful, if I'm being real. Come in here and pick up the pickaxe. What we're essentially doing now is we're trying to escape the sewers. We're going to use the pickaxe to climb over this wall. Then we're going to use it to open a gap in these rocks. And this brings us into the first dungeon, or the Tower of Lackmere. Now, the Tower of Lackmere is admittedly at one of the few places. Well, I mean, there are quite a few like this, I suppose, but this one in particular we're going to be visiting several times throughout the course of the run. Sounds wonderful.
Great. See you in a bit.
Our lovely host has been out for a bite of lunch, so we'll just keep on cruising through. So anyway, here's Lackmere. Lackmere's kind of like the owl in Ocarina of Time, and then he pops up every 10 minutes to dump a bunch of exposition on us, and he's really annoying, but we'll be seeing him quite a bit. So we picked up a few items, mostly to just, you know, get through the run. We got some rope, we got a fairy statue, we got an elf statue. We're going to come in here and we're going to pick up the red potion, or liquid sunset as it's actually called. Very important item for a little bit later in the run. Technically you don't have to grab it right now. You could come back here and grab it later when we need it, but it's quicker to just go ahead and get it here while we're here, you know. We're going to come to this corner, we're going to grab this item here, this ancient coin, for way later in the run. Then we got to go do our first true puzzle. Some of the puzzles in this game are kind of cool. Some of them are pretty terrible. This one's pretty simple. We put the fairy statue into the little slot here, and then we put the elf statue into the little slot. Anyway, after we do that, we come upstairs here to pick up one item. In 100%, there's a few things we gotta pick up here, but in any percent, all we need is this pixie flute. So in order to escape the Tower of Lackmere, come up here, use the rope on this little window. Use the pixie flute to turn small so we can climb through the little gaps in the window, and then we use the pixie flute again to turn big. I wish I could say that this game had a lot of puzzles where we have to use the pixie flute to, like, you know, be big or small, but nope. That's the only time. Most items in this game are like a one-time use sort of deal. But to be totally real, you don't really get a chance to use most items more than once. Which is kind of sad, but it is what it is. Then we come in here to the church. We're going to be coming into this church quite a few times during the run. But on our first visit here, we're going to grab this key, which we don't need right now. We need it later, but it's just a little bit quicker to grab it now. Then we're going to grab this crowbar. And the last thing we need here is this vial of dragon tears, which we need for a couple pretty important things. We're going to climb up this ladder. We're going to use our recently acquired crowbar on this nail. We'll release this pull chain and allow us to climb this ladder. We are going to be making a safety save when we get up this ladder, though. One thing I forgot to mention about this game is there's no continue system. And if you haven't saved your game and you die, that's it. That's rip run, which is not good. So, in some of the more dangerous areas, I'll probably be making some safety saves. You can see there's like holes in the ground here. If you fall in one of those holes, the run is over. For the sake of marathon safety, we'll make a couple safety saves throughout the run and a few of the more dangerous portions. So this is the second dungeon, one of 4. This is the... No, this is the Tower of Blackmere. I'm sorry, the first tower was called the Tower of Disciples. This is the Tower of Blackmere. Sorry, I have not been awake long. The first thing we do is we're going to open that barrel and put some dragon tears in it to help solve the puzzle later. And then we're going to grab this bottle of oil. Good old oil. We're just gonna rush right on downstairs. First, we gotta talk to Blackmere for a moment. We have probably my least favorite room in the game. This dungeon is a little bit, the word I'm looking for. Terrible, in a sense. It's not hard by any means. There's just a lot of going back and forth. What we did down there is we grabbed the star crest, which we're going to need for a puzzle. And in this room we have to grab the rusty key and the ornate mug. That was our first oops, I examined nothing moment of the run. Like I said, a lot of going back and forth in this dungeon. Going back in here where the open barrel was and the dragon's tears, or the water that we put the dragon tears into. We're going to use this mug. We're going to scoop up some of that delicious dragon tear water. Yummy. We're going to go in this room here, and we're going to use the dragon tears on this purple fire. sort of a little pick-a-path puzzle here. Naturally, we, Naturally, I was gonna say, we got it memorized, and then I went the wrong way. That's fun. A little bit rusty. Nothing major. This is one of the very, very few, and by few I mean this is the only instance of the game where we can sort of choose which item we want to use to complete that puzzle there. We have to put a large metal object into that machine in order to forge it into a key. For a long time, runners would use the pickaxe for that, but I've changed over to using the iron bar for a specific reason that we'll see later, because I want to keep the pickaxe. So anyway, we use a potion, which reveals a place for us to use the key that we just forged. It opens this door here. And then we grab the red ring. Or the Ring of the Dead, technically. We got a little cutscene here where we meet the titular villain of the game, named Belzar. Belzar is our homie. He's pretty chill as far as villains go. I kind of find that he's sort of what's the word I'm looking for here? A bit one note. His goal is to resurrect the Warlock Lord, which we don't want that. That's obviously not a good thing. Notice I was dropping a few frames. Turned the bitrate down some once the cutscene started here. We'll see if that helps. Oh, I spoke too soon. Nice. Hopefully it isn't anything too egregious. So anyway, after we finish all that off, Black Mirror sort of explains the goal of the whole game, stopping Belzar and the resurrection of the Warlock Lord. And then because this is a 64 game and modern conveniences didn't exist at the time, we have to just manually leave the whole dungeon. Awesome. Got a little turned around there. The rust is real. It's been a few months since I've played this. Actually, the last time I played it, I was running it at another marathon as well. Dropped another safety save. Case. And we're gonna go grave robbing. Always a good time. Some good family-friendly fun, for sure. By grave robbing, I mean we're just gonna talk to this lady's ghost, Jezebel. Everybody say, "Hey, Jezebel." Jezebel is gonna give us her pendant, which is a crucial item to trigger some story quests, and we are now officially in the longest chunk of the game, if you will. It's pretty tedious. We're going to use the rusty key that we got in Lachmir's Tower to open this door. And we're back in the sewers, so this whole game sort of loops back in on itself. So that's Grandpa Ghost. He explains that his the restless spirit of his granddaughter is wandering somewhere, and we need to go find her. He gives us a key to the cemetery, and we take a slipper off of the table. Now, we couldn't grab that earlier because we did not have Ring of the Dead, but those of you who are astute, you will realize that we are back into the first dungeon. And this is an area that we come to 2 more times, I believe. We went ahead and changed our equipment there over from the Ring of the Dead to Jezebel's Pendant. And the reason for that is we actually have to talk to some living NPCs now. Ugh, talking to people, right? This is the Bard, though. Nice 2-minute long cutscene of just talking to a bard, pretty much. So the bard sings a few songs for us, and each of the songs is, you know, the lyrics contain a solution to some sort of puzzle that we need to solve inside of the proper town of Shadowgate, of which we are now in. We don't really need to know the answers to any of those puzzles, given that, you know, I have the world record. We kind of already know all these solutions, so that's good. Unfortunately, you can't skip listening to these songs, which really stinks. You have to listen to the Bard songs in order to trigger the next sort of series of events. But more specifically, what we really need from the Bard is after you listen to the Bard's songs, the Bard gives us a flower. Now, this flower, crucial object for beating the game. Which is pretty silly, but, you know, who doesn't like some flowers? Anyway, after that, we're going to come all the way through the town of Shadowgate. We're going to climb down here. We're going to talk to probably one of the ugliest NPCs ever put into a video game. We're going to give him the ancient coin that we picked up way back at the beginning of the game. Look at this guy. Idiots. I ain't trying to shame nobody, but like, I mean, why would you ever design a character like this? It's more, I think it's more so the unevenness of his face texture that's always bugged me. Anyway, this makes him move and get out of the way. I played that super safe. If you fall into that chasm, you die. This is one of those games, when in doubt, everything just kills you. Everything. And there's no combat in this game either, so that's fun. We're gonna come through here. We're gonna go into the sort of central fountain area. We're gonna go ahead and re-equip the Ring of the Dead. Go in there. We're going to talk to Caitlin. That is the granddaughter ghost that we were trying to find earlier. And now we found her. We're not going to be circling back to that for a bit in terms of why we did that. But kind of quicker to just go ahead and do that now. It's one of the more out-of-the-way things. Then we get one of 3 big RNG gauntlets of the game. First we got to put on Jezebel's pendant. Then we go into the inn / bar. Now, the barkeeper here knew Jezebel and immediately was like, hey, were you grave robbing? And to be honest, kind of, but we're going to say no. And he doubts us, so he's going to ask us some questions about Jezebel. When you get all the questions right, he's satisfied and says, alright, fine, you weren't on a grave robber. But this allows us to actually enter the inn, which is pretty important. Then we can talk to this lady over here. Now, this is, if you all remember the magician at the main beginning of the game, this is that magician's sister, I think, and apprentice. She informs us that she really wants us to help us free him. We say yes, naturally. She gives us a powerful crystal ball, magical orb sort of thing. We're not going to be using it for a bit, but again, it's quicker to go ahead and grab it now. We're going to come over here and we're going to use the cemetery key to open this door. And this is going to lead us back to the church from a little while earlier. What we did there is we used the dragon tears on that grave, and it conjured the spirit of a old magician who tells us an incantation that we need to use much later in the game. Then we're going to come here and I think I got it. I did, nice. Saw that grave skip. Doesn't really skip much, but you know, it's little things. Basically, what normally happens is you come to that grave and talk to the ghost first. He explains that he would love some respect. Then you put the flower on the grave, but if you weasel up to it in just the right way, you don't actually need to talk to the ghost first. But it's pretty tricky to do so, because as soon as you get close to the grave, the trigger happens. We're going to go back into the church. We're going to head down into the sewers. So coming into here, there's a really difficult skip that we're not going to do. We call it Lucas skip. You can see this dead body that we're walking over there. Everybody say hi, Lucas. Bye, Lucas. And if you have the Ring of the Dead equipped when you walk over it, Lucas talks to you. There is a way around it, though, in that you just don't look at the body when you walk past it. That's a lot easier said than done because there's a pool of water there. And it can be somewhat irritating. There we go. Anyway, we come down here. We talk to this dead guy. He gives us his treasure, which is going to be a pretty important item here in a moment. Then we're going to go in here. We're going to use the pickaxe. We're going to go back into the first dungeon in this direction. And the reason for that is where the Grandpa Ghost was, if y'all recall. We have now found his granddaughter's ghost, and they are reunited. Hooray! He thanks us by giving us an object called the Stone of Thirst, which allows you to drain some water. And if you remember a little bit earlier in the run, I used an iron bar to forge a key. And I mentioned that you can use other items to do that. For a long time, runners used the pickaxe because it was the closest item in the inventory. But you can't get back into this dungeon from that direction if you use the pickaxe. So, turns out it's a little bit better to not do that. But now we're done with all the talking to ghosts. Well, sort of. Lackbeer talked to us a couple more times. But long story short, we don't need the Ring of the Dead anymore. So we're just going to go ahead and take that off. Now we got to go shopping. We're going to use the treasure that we got from the ghost down in the sewers. He offers us 3 different violins. Specifically, we want the chipped violin. Then we're going to come in here, and this door over here to the right leads down into the sewer, or not the sewers, the dungeon, from the main beginning of the game. Meaning we're about to go free the wizard. And in order to do that, we need the violin. This section is pretty rife with potential for skips. I've looked and looked and not really found anything, but if you could find a way over here to grab that key without using the violin to distract the dungeon keeper, you could free Agar here, the magician, way earlier in the run and skip like half of the game, which would obviously be pretty hype. We lock the dungeon keeper in. Rip that guy. Then we come here, we talk to Agar and Agar's sister. They thank us for, you know, busted him out of jail. And he tells us that he had a house in town that might have some useful stuff in it, and that we can go visit it if we like and ransack it. And that's the first thing we're gonna do now. Coming in here into Agar's house, there are 3 things we need. Thing number 1, the Dragon's Fang. Thing number 2, this lever, which is really easy to miss because it's kind of just looks like a bedpost. And Agar has some flint. Classic puzzle item. Got your fire starter, your doohickey, and your thing to finish off a switch. I'm gonna drop a safety save.
Just a heads up that I am back.
Welcome back. Come in here and we use the Stone of Thirst to drain this water. It's interesting because we drain this water so that we can go drain some more water, which has always made me wonder why you can't just use the Stone of Thirst in the later spot to drain that water instead, but, you know, what do I know? Now we'll see if my mild dyslexia doesn't get us in trouble here. Hopefully we're good. I've always had issues with puzzles where it's like you have to memorize like left, right, or up and down in like a sequence of things. Like I'll be like, is it left, left, right? Is it left, right, right? Is it? We'll find out. Survey says. Nope, I got it wrong. Rip. That's okay. What we'll do is, I'll just pull up my notes very quickly. Extremely quickly. So yeah, what I did is I did right, right, left. And the correct sequence was left, right, right. a little bit of rusty crusty there. And there we go. And now we get it.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kefka.
Whoa. Wait. What? Uh-oh. Now we're officially in Mayday mode. There it goes. Good lord. Okay. Luckily, that's the only puzzle like that in the game. And my derp brain is gonna be alright. Although it is interesting to note that I had it wrong on my notes, which is pretty funny. So anyway, now that whole crisis has been averted, we're gonna go to the third dungeon, the Tower Trial. Definitely the hardest dungeon in the game. I should rephrase that. It's not hard per se. There's just a lot of things that go wrong really quickly. We are gonna drop one more safety save. And we're going to make our way to the Tower of Trials. Tower Trials is pretty interesting. It is probably the coolest dungeon in the game. And the most difficult, for sure. I think my favorite part about it is the vibe. It has a very weird, kind of spooky vibe, honestly. I remember I rented this game a lot as a kid, and I didn't have a controller pack, so I couldn't save my game. And I would just beat the game over and over. And I remember I used to get a little bit creeped out in this dungeon. Music's really, like, unsettling, for lack of a better term. Then we got one of the more simple puzzles, for sure, in the game. Gotta fill in these little statue slot things to make the Dreslin family crest. Then we go into the next room and we get quiz. That's something people like in games, right? Quizzes. This is the demon wall. The demon wall is going to ask us 5 questions. 4 of them are completely random. The 5th one, the 5th question is not random. I have the answers pulled up. When I'm fresh on this game, I've got them memorized. But I have them pulled up at the moment. So that we can just not get one wrong. Only 2 questions left, and then we get to do probably the worst part of the dungeon. Cool. Alright, so we got through that. Albeit a little safely, but we got through it. That's all that matters. Okay. Now we're going into probably one of the more challenging parts for people who might have played this game years ago as a kid or whatever. This section here reverses your controls, and there's these spinning blades that, you know, if you walk into them, you die. So up becomes down, left becomes right. So, oh, well, that's fun. I did die. That's okay. I just made a safety save, and that's why I did that. There we go. There we go. So now we're through the truly dangerous part of the dungeon. Things could still get a little hairy and weird. But we should be okay. From this point, we're going to use the flint on this candle to light it. We're going to take the candle with us. And from this moment forward, we are on a time crunch. We have to finish this whole confusing maze before the candle burns out. The timer's really generous, honestly, so it's not a problem. It's more or less just a matter of pushing a bunch of switches that exist within the maze. Definitely one of the easier parts to get confused at. So you kind of got things memorized and on lock. What happened there is I walked a step too far and went down the stairs instead of turning around that corner. That happens. I think that even happened at my world record, which is pretty funny. One really weird thing that happens, and it's very subtle, and I doubt anyone even would have noticed it. But if you do die, for some reason you lose the ability to buffer the direction you're going in when stepping into a new loading zone until you leave a dungeon. I don't really know why that happens, but it's really annoying. Because I'm expecting when I walk into a loading zone to immediately be able to move in whatever the correct direction is. But instead I just stand there for a second and then I move. It's really silly and really irritating. But we are just about finished with the maze. And that puts us really close to the end of the game, actually. Like, really, really close. The fourth and final dungeon, Tower of Dragons. You can tell the developers were kind of just ready to get the game out of the door, so to speak. Very short. I think there's like one puzzle in it, technically. So we come up here. We're going to put the candle in this little candelabra. That's a fun word. Candelabra. Pretty cool little puzzle here. We got to go backwards into this mirror. And then we're going to
The only thing candelabra reminds me of is Beauty and the Beast, where because they obviously all speak French, they go candelabra, monsieur.
What's that character's name? Lumiere? Is that his name?
Lumiere here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. No, candelabra. To anyone who's French in the chat, I apologize if we offend you. We do it all the time, but, you know, just apologies.
But anyway, we just picked up the Ring of the Kingdom, which is arguably one of the two most important items in the game. We're going to be able to use it to defeat the Warlock Lord. Ooh, spooky. But before we can go do that, we got to go into the final dungeon and get the other thing we need to defeat the Warlock Lord, which is Staff of Ages. Also, we left the dungeon now, so we can buffer our directions again. So that's nice. But before we make our way to the fourth dungeon, we got to make one final stop by the first dungeon to pick up the Dragon Flute. Which allows us to open the fourth dungeon. You know, probably pretty important to actually get in. So we're going to take one more last little cruise lap. Whoa, that was weird. Through the town of Shadowgate on our way to the 4th dungeon. We're getting really close to wrapping this adventure up. Really close, actually. Final dungeon, like I said, is super short. Then there's a few little cutscenes and one little final sort of puzzle, if you will. That's fun. My brain went on autopilot because I'm rusty, and I went straight towards the 3rd dungeon. I caught myself before I was in the 3rd dungeon, so that's good. Alright. Now we are in the 4th dungeon. The Tower of Dragons. Spooky. Like I said, super short dungeon. I wish I could say there was more to it than about what you're seeing here, but kinda not. Just walk in a circle. We do have to make one little pit stop, though, in this room here. Go down this ladder, and we're going to pick up a dragon eye gem that looks like a dragon eye. Then I believe we'll drop one last safety save. Just in case. If we fall off the edge here, we will die. And that would revert us back to being in the 3rd dungeon where I saved before. That would be Bert's kill. We use the dragon fang we picked up in Agar's house quite a bit earlier. Like 25 minutes ago, something like that. We just go in a circle up this dungeon. And there's literally like 2 rooms left after this in this dungeon. Just very short for some reason. My theory is that they kind of just ran out of development time, so they just sort of threw something together for this one. We do have one final puzzle though. We gotta select the correct dragon wing on each of these statues. Easy peasy. Then we come up here and there's a dragon with a stick in its head. Spoiler alert, we need the stick. That is the Staff of Ages. Alright. Once we take the Staff of Ages here, we're officially in the proper end game, which is like 4 to 5 minutes long, if that. The dragon comes back to life And we get a nice early 64 cutscene here, where we board the dragon, mount it, whatever the proper term is. We're literally Daenerys Targaryen, except with way more pixels. This drops us off here in the barn section of town, and the first thing we got to do is commit an arson to distract the guards. We use the flint to light the barn on fire. We come to this guy here. We use Jezebel's pendant, which really upsets him. And it makes him just, you know, walk away. Sure. And then those of you who might remember the villain from like 40 minutes ago or so, we're going to have our final confrontation with that villain right now. By final confrontation, I mean we're literally just going to put a gem on a stick and watch him set himself on fire. So unfortunately, Belzar did indeed resurrect the Warlock Lord, what we were trying to stop. So, you know, oof. So we got one final confrontation with the Warlock Lord. And by confrontation, I mean use MacGuffin, win. All we have to do is win is put the Staff of Ages on this statue. Ring of the Kingdom, and time is when I dismiss this text box. And Fine. That's Shadowgate 64. Definitely a weird game, I would say. That's kind of my MO as a whole, I would argue, but certainly a pretty cool little, like, medieval high fantasy adventure. Those of you who might be into that sort of thing. But, yeah.
Well done. So final time there was 1 hour and 34 seconds. So
Okay.
well done.
Yeah, that hit the nail right on the head, more or less. Cool.
Pretty much, yes. So we will be going over to our next run in a moment. So that will be the Super Mario Odyssey Damageless World Peace run by Cheese J. This run does have incentives you can donate to, so if you'd like to go and donate, go to the chat, !donate in the chat. We'll bring up the link to the donation page for you all. I will post that in there for you now. And if you do go to that page and you donate, you can choose one of the incentives that you'd like to see. We have quite a selection, actually. We've got Mushroom Kingdom Bosses Showcase, Dark Side Showcase, Darker Side Showcase, and there's also an interesting one called Mario Wears the Boxer Shorts. So if you'd like to see any one of them, make sure to donate to them. They don't have any donations yet, but any donations, and if they reach £50, then we will see one of them or whatever, whichever ones get donated to. But yeah, so please do get those donations in as well, because the donations also go to EveryoneCan. We do take a small cut just so that we can cover our own costs with InstaSpeedathon as well. All of that isn't mentioned on the donation page, but the vast majority of the money that's raised during mini InstaSpeedathon 2023 will go to EveryoneCan. So please get those donations in, and I will be reading them out periodically as they come in as well. So we'll be going over to our next one, which will be Super Mario Odyssey Damageless World Peace by Cheese J in just a moment. But before we do that, do you have any final things you'd like to say, Kefka, before we finish?
Again, thanks for letting me fill in. And I think I'll be back a little bit later today to run some Elmo.
I think so, yes. You got an Elmo run later today, and then you've also got a Tales of Vesperia Definitive Edition tomorrow. Yep. So cool. You got a pretty good lineup of runs there. Yep. But anyway, thank you so much for taking part. We'll see you again soon. Yep. Well, we'll see you again later, actually.